The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters.
So, welcome back to the Potty Plotters podcast at Gareth's house.
Yeah, so shall we just put a bit of context in to
Go
this?
on then.
So we're here inside because it's, where are we now? It's the 15th of June we're recording this, so this goes out in about a week and a half. And the weatherman we spoke to a couple of weeks ago has escaped the country.
Right.
Because currently outside, and for the last few days in the evening, it's thrashing it one.
I tell you what, it's not just in the evening, because we were at an event yesterday and it hammered it down.
I feel
it was
so
torrential.
sorry. Yeah, I feel so sorry for people who've organised events thinking it's the middle of June and they'll get away with it.
Yeah.
And actually, it's dreadful. So, hello, I'm Julia. Have you said you're Elaine?
No, and I am. No, but thank you for reminding me, because I am. And in this episode, that cat's just jumped off your knee, Julia.
Oh,
and
no.
we could give a running commentary,
We
really.
could do. If you hear me yell at something, don't you jump up there.
I think.
Hang on,
I don't
I'll be
think
back.
the cat understands you, Gareth.
I'll be back.
Shall we just talk amongst ourselves, Julia? Because that's what we're really good at.
Yeah.
Anyway, in this episode, we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about allotments, and that's what we do. Oh, cat's gone outside, regardless of the weather. But if you want to tell us about how the weather's affected your allotments, then let us know, because I don't think that we can be the only ones that are underwater again.
No, I think the thing
Back
is,
now.
Thank you.
it's really hard to stay motivated, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we love our allotment. We're down there most of the time. But I want to say congratulations if you are somebody who has started out this year and you're still wading through it with the intention of getting to the end of the season. Well done, because it really is a hard season this season, because it's never stopped raining. And one thing I just want to point out, Elaine, I'm seeing lots of things on social media of very yellow plants, and people are saying, "Ooh, what's this deficient in? What should I be doing?" All it is the weather.
It's cold.
It's wet, and the plants are sulking. And I can't blame them.
No, I know that feeling.
In all of your years of being allotmenteers, have you ever known an early summer, late spring as bad as what we've had?
No, and the thing is, Gareth, this hasn't just happened.
No, we've had it all year, haven't we?
Well, it has. It started about October, to be quite frank.
I mean, you can put up with a bad winter if you know that you're going to get a summer, but we've not got a summer yet, have we? And everything is very stunted and not growing. I mean, I'm not growing.
No.
I finished growing.
Yeah.
And I think I have.
You've never
Might
grown
go
up.
width ways.
Yeah.
I've never grown up, But it's a test.
It is.
But I'm just going to say, on a positive note, what I have noticed is that the straw flowers, which we'd not planted before, they're loving it.
Are they?
Yeah, they're loving it. But the problem is that they don't open very often, because they only open when the sun's out. But as for the height, they're about 2.5 foot in height now. So that's worked. But
And one
that,
other thing that's really working very well, it depends where you've got them located, but I've had some fantastic strawberries. I think it's the best year I've had with strawberries, and that's because they're lifted a little bit off the ground, so I've kind of made little mounds with them to sit on, and then I've kind of surrounded them with the obviously earlier in the year we put our nematodes down, and then rather than putting straw down, I've actually used that thing called stulch.
Well, Julia, don't talk about that, because I want to talk about it later.
Okay.
Was that
Just
a preview of what we're talking about?
It is really. Is that what it's called?
A preview. I mean, we've got a list of what we want to talk about, but because of the weather, let's just put it out. I mean, it is truly awful out there, and I was going to put a microphone close to the window so we could actually hear the rain, but
Don't rub it in.
Anyway, that's not what people are listening for. They want us to be cheerful and jolly and give them encouragement.
Well, I'm going to tell you about some successes then, as well as what we've just said. Broad beans, by crikey. I mean, broad beans have never been so good.
Oh.
And I think that's because they are well and truly soaked water-wise.
Yes.
Now, I'm just going to put a reminder out there for people who don't know this hint and tip, which for us from last year, well, actually, I've done it for a few years, but people will be eager to be pulling up their broad beans when they've taken all of the pods off. Now then, stand fast, everybody. Have you got a sound effect for that? Like dramatic, but not an announcement-y sort of thing. And what you do is, when you've taken all the pods off, Julia, no matter how big or whatever variety your broad beans are, just cut them down to about 8 inches above the soil. Don't take them out. Now, first of all, it'll do your soil good.
Yep.
That's the first things, because of the nitrates that are in the bottom of the roots. They actually feed the soil. Did you know that?
I did know that.
No. And secondly, you will get a second crop of broad beans.
Will I?
Whether you
Truthfully.
want them or not.
Yes, exactly.
Over the summer or later in the year?
In a few weeks' time. So as soon as you've cut them down, when you've taken all the pods off, just cut the broad bean plant stalk itself down, only to about 8 inches, that's all, and then leave them and watch what happens. And honestly, they start all over again.
And is that crop as big as the first crop, or is it smaller?
No, it is generally smaller, but nevertheless, it's something that's for free. So take it as a free raffle prize. You've won it, you've got it, and we'll do it.
Hints and tips for shortcuts to success. The Potty Plotters Plotcast.
So if people would like to get in touch with us,
Yeah, you tell them how.
I'll tell and let us know of any successes that you've had, because quite obviously it's quite limited at the moment,
Yes,
the successes.
yeah.
And also to ask any questions you can via the social media channels Facebook, Instagram and X at Potty Plotters. On TikTok we're at The Potty Plotters. You can email naughtycorner at pottyplotters.uk or check out the website pottyplotters.uk. And if you're enjoying what we're doing and you'd like to support us to keep us going, and believe me, we need some support to keep us going right now, then you can head over to kofi.com/thepottyplotters. That's ko-fi.com/thepottyplotters and leave us a tip. And 2 people that have recently, and I know I've been a little bit lax at doing this because of our recording schedule, we've recorded a few in advance. So we'd like to thank Tanya Dobbs and Sinead O'Keefe 7 for your support. And if you'd like to, head over to kofi.com/thepottyplotters.
Is that why you put these biscuits in front of us here, Gareth? I mean, I can get the top off, yeah. So you've got a biscuit barrel and you've made us a nice cup of coffee and tea each.
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
That's nice.
all I need
Thank
to
you.
keep me going is a cup of tea, but all you need is oxygen.
Does she come up for oxygen?
Not very often.
No, when we go out and do talks, we have to take an oxygen tank out with us, because otherwise Elaine takes it out the room, don't you? Because you never shut up.
Yeah, well, I've got a lot to say in a very short time. That's a bit like today, isn't it, really?
Well, then, what
right,
have you got
then,
to
well,
say?
we have had correspondence
very
in.
nice,
That's
yeah.
interesting, isn't it? Now then, I would like to do this in a South Wales-ish accent.
I wouldn't.
No.
I really wouldn't, because you might offend people.
I was going to say, but I'm not going to. Well, anyway, things you don't know about me. My husband's mother, that's my mother-in-law, was actually born in South Wales.
Yeah, but that's her and not you.
Yeah.
No, but I can do a little bit, see? It's just in habit. I can't help it. Anyway, right then, Simon.
So if you'd like to complain, don't email
Oh
us.
dear.
Yeah, email Gareth.
No, don't.
Anyway, so Simon in South Wales has messaged us, and that was on Facebook, and he's actually put, "Hello, Potty Plotters."
Hello.
Hello. I've just found you on Apple Podcasts, and I genuinely, in capitals, love the podcast.
Oh,
Well done,
that's
Simon.
lovely.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
he must be
Simon.
listening for him to have said that.
Yes, he must be.
Well
Yeah.
done. I've tried listening to several different chatty podcasts about allotment gardening. Your content feels very well planned. I think that might be me then. Anyway, with wonderful, clear
that.
delivery. You can have that
No,
one.
you can have that.
All right then. It's a joy to listen to. She can have that. And even the gardening tips are great. Aww.
That's nice.
Well, I started with your back catalogue in season 2, and I'm 2 episodes away from being up to date.
Well, Simon, because of the weather, I mean, it's stopped raining now. Oh, is it? It's just drizzling at the
Drizzle.
minute. But because of the weather, Simon, now's a perfect opportunity to sit inside and listen.
Yes.
And catch up.
Good plan. I've just been planting out tomatoes and cucumbers in the polytunnel. Interesting that he's got a polytunnel, you
Yeah.
see.
He's got land.
Yes.
You need to get in with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. We need to visit South Wales. So I've enjoyed having you with me. Isn't that
Aw.
nice that we've been in his polytunnel, so to
Yeah,
speak?
but we couldn't see it.
No.
Could you send us some pictures so we can visualise it a bit more when we're in there with you?
Well, I'll tell you what made me laugh, because Len is put, if the mug idea goes ahead, that would be a dream come true. You need to get out more, Simon. That's what I'm going to say.
You know that little
that's a
throwaway
good
comment
idea.
that we made that kind of seems to now be growing legs?
I don't want a mug with legs. That
No.
would be me. Anyway, all of my existing mugs have been abandoned around the garden, and I'm desperate for a cup of Yorkshire tea.
Oh, I
we
know.
love that, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Despite gardening in South Wales. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll sort something out and send it to him. Now, I know that Gareth in the past has warned people and say, don't give them your address. But actually, we can't send it like to, and that's what we could put.
Yeah.
Simon in South Wales.
Yeah, there might be a lot
the
of that.
post
It's gonna
office
be
is
hard,
good,
isn't
but
it?
yeah.
Yeah, not that good.
No.
So get in touch with us again. Then
I mean,
and
the
see what we
reason
can
that
do.
Gareth tells people not to give us their address is because we usually turn up at their houses, don't we, Elaine?
Yes, we do.
South Wales is a bit of a trek, so
Exactly.
he might be
I
saying
don't
Might get away with
mind.
it.
Don't mind.
it's a bit of a long drive.
Yeah, it is. But we can do it.
We like a sing-song along the
I
way.
wonder if you
and-
want a greenhouse, might as well take one of them with us as well.
You got a trailer then?
No, we don't need a trailer, Gareth.
got my
we do
big
it in the
car.
car. Yeah,
Okay.
we undo all the nuts and bolts and off we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've had another one, Julia.
Have we? Newsflash.
Indeed.
Newsflash.
Yeah, that
Oh,
one's
you've
off.
given me
Yeah.
the... You pressed the button, right, okay. Thanks to your tips, my carrots... Oh, it's from Julia Powell.
Yeah.
And it says, thanks to your tips, my carrots are just being harvested and parsnips are doing well. Potatoes, okay, I think. Peas and coloured beets, all okay in the raised beds.
That sounds good.
The slugs ate all my squash, pumpkins, etc. But I've got more growing at home in a trough on shelving outside my greenhouse.
Now, what I'm going to say on that,
Yeah.
Julia, is that sometimes, depending on what make they are, it might be quite tricky for them to grow a decent size. So what I'm going to say to you is, Julia, maybe set them off like you have, keep them in those pots and a trough, but you might need to later, when we get a bit of SUMMER, replant them out on the plot, because they do need a lot of
Yeah.
water and they love muck.
Yeah.
So the more you can give them, the better they'll grow.
And that's what I've been doing. While it's
Yeah.
been bad weather, I've actually been potting things on into the next size of
Yeah,
plant
it
pot.
makes sense.
Because it's too cold outside,
Yeah.
it's too wet, but they do need room to grow. So
Yeah.
that's a good bit of advice there, Elaine.
Well, you're surprised, Julia, aren't you?
No, you are full of wisdom. Anyway, moving on. Red robin plants in greenhouse doing well, but I'm wondering if I dare put them out. What about the slugs, etc.?
Don't put them outside, Julia, leave them inside the greenhouse or the house.
Yeah.
They will grow happily on a windowsill and even happier in a greenhouse. They grow exactly the same as a tomato. So I know that you can put some of those outside, but these love it inside. So do it.
yeah.
No, keep them inside.
Yeah, and you won't have
nurture
any
them.
slugs in there, will you?
No, well, I haven't got any in mine, but just keep your eye out just in case any of them sneak in.
I did have one in my car the other day. I don't know what pot. It
Did
must have
you?
been under a plant pot or something. That's not very nice when they leave that slimy trail in your car. But anyway, moving on.
Yes.
Wood lice have eaten my strawberries in raised bed with straw. Now, that's one thing that's why I don't like wooden raised beds, actually, because that's where all the creatures do live, because you've got wood lice and slugs that tend to hide there.
Well, you see, I'm going to stick my neck out because obviously I'm going to be Minister for Allotments very shortly if people vote for me. But what I would say is it's a myth about putting straw round your strawberries.
Right.
I have never, ever, in all the years I've been around, which is actually a very long time, never had any success at all, because what you're doing is you are harbouring and creating nests, as you've just said, not just for wood lice but for the slugs as well.
Yeah.
So what I would do is strip it all back, and then if you can see that they're naked, all the plants, etc., then you can pick them off. But when they're hiding, Julia, how do you find them?
In your strawberry when you eat it?
Well, that's not very nice, though, is it?
No, but I mean,
no, strip it back. I don't. Let's go on to this a minute, though.
Yeah.
Because why do people put straw around the strawberries? You don't.
No,
Is it the word straw?
I don't know, Gareth. It's a funny thing that people do.
Do you remember when Pick Your Own was massive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it isn't as big now as what it used to be. And you used to wander around all the fields full of strawberries, and you would see that there was straw laid under them. you think that's where it comes from, that people have kind of picked up that from there? And also the word straw in strawberry.
Well, I actually do think that it's nothing more than a weed suppressant. It will work as a weed suppressant.
Yeah.
Straw will kill most weeds, actually. But I don't understand why, at the height of the season, when you're getting strawberries, that you cover the ground underneath, because you are creating beds.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because usually when strawberries are out, it's summer. And we have sunny weather. And if you
Summer, what's that?
And if you put the straw down underneath the plants as the fruit's ripening, of course it kind of means that they're nice and clean because they're not sitting on the soil. So maybe that's why people did it. But of course, with the weather that we're having, it's providing the perfect habitat, and it's quite soggy anyway, the straw is. So a lot of the strawberries will rot even sitting on top of the straw.
Yeah, and because you're retaining that moisture underneath as well. The slugs, I mean, it's I was going to say hay day, but it'd be a straw day, wouldn't it? Which is very different to a hay day, but similar.
It's like centre parks for slugs.
Yeah.
Anyway, carrying on, sorry.
Okay, and anyway, we're still on with Julia, but Julia would welcome some advice re keeping pots watered at home over a week away. Have you got any advice there, Ridley?
Yes, I have. You know those, trays, that's one thing. You know, if you go to charity shop, you can pick up quite cheap trays. They're trays that you put tea and coffee and all that on. Yeah, that's the first thing I'd look for. Or baking tins, old baking tins, because not everybody bakes nowadays. So if you've got some old baking tins, put some water in the bottom of them, obviously, and on the tray, and then stand your pots in that. Now, there are very few plants that won't survive a whole week without watering. So give them a first soak, right? And then stand them in the water, and they'll take up only the water that they require over that week. That's what I do, and that's what I would do.
Oh, right, okay. Another thing that you could do, I mean, it seems a bit folly really to talk about it, is move them out of the sun.
Yeah, put them in the shade. Well, we haven't got a lot of sun, Julia,
no,
so
but you never know.
That one off.
You never know.
Yeah.
And another thing I would do, perhaps when I'm planting up the pots, would be to get some swell gel, because that will actually hold the moisture a lot more in your plant pot.
That reminds me, another hint and tip is, if you've got some old towels, and I've got loads actually, old towels, you could also wet them and put them into the bottom of your tray, etc. And that will retain the moisture over a period of time. And also, when you were just saying put the plant pots into the shade, put them all together, don't leave them as singles.
No.
Put them together, and then they protect one another. I just thought I'd tell you that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Full of them.
Anyway, the allotment is okay because she can ask for help here, there,
everywhere.
and everywhere. Happy gardening, Julia.
Well, we muddled our way through that, and from one Julia to the other, let's move on to the real stuff. Thanks for getting in touch, though.
Contact the Potty Plotters anytime on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Potty Plotters, or email naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
So how has the weather affected our plants? Well, it's fair to say that it has. I don't know, really. I think a lot of plants will survive and a lot of them won't. My concern is that people who have never done allotmenting before will be put off.
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard. And like I say, a lot of the plants are going very yellow. The weather has definitely slowed growth down. And it's a bit boring, but I will say it to you. So when I was looking at my tomatoes in the greenhouse earlier on, you can see almost when we've had periods of sunshine, because the gap between the leaves is much bigger, whereas when it's gone colder, the gap between the leaves is shorter. And I think that's because it slows the growth down. And so that's a really good indicator of how the weather affects the growth on a plant.
You know, when people say, I can't come out tonight because I'm going to sit watching paint dry, are you actually sitting watching your tomatoes
I just
grow?
noticed it when I was tying them in, and I thought that must have been the week that we had summer.
That was the week that was.
And then the rest of it, it's obviously slowed down again. So it's definitely stunted growth.
I wonder if we'll ever get any red tomatoes, or if we'll be inundated making blooming green tomato chutney.
No, I'm sticking my bananas in with them.
All right,
I
whatever.
remember that from last year.
Yeah, and it works.
That works,
does
doesn't
work.
it?
Yeah.
The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters.
let's talk about planting in pots. So, getting away from all of this, and I know that people have written to us before about how do you protect your slugs and chard.
Slugs?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I meant chard and lettuce from slugs. Well, what I've actually done is I've done hanging baskets of lettuce, and we haven't found any abseiling slugs, have we, just yet?
No.
So that works. But the other thing is as well, plant them into pots. So if you do a tray, then you get the seedlings and plant into individual little plant pots. The good thing about this is that then people perhaps who live on their own, or if you're a small family, or people who generally don't really like lettuce but feel that you've got to eat a little bit, then you can take off as many leaves as you actually need, and it works. And the good thing is you can give them away as well. I know, you're looking amazed at me, Julia, but it is true.
I'm stunned to silence. And what do you do with your chard?
And my chard exactly the same, because if you remember when we first came back here to Gareth's house, he'd got some lovely perennial, chard is a perennial, so it'll come back every year, and he'd got some beauties that were in a little pot, if you remember. It wasn't that little actually, it was big, wasn't it?
If you look through me, look through my ear.
I can't look through you.
I can see.
It's gone to seed.
Yes, it's bolted.
Now, do you know why it's bolted, Gareth?
Because we haven't picked it.
Oh, there's that, yes.
And also it's probably because of the weather we've been having as well. So we've had quite a lot of rain, so it's grown quite tall.
Yeah. So pinch out the top, so take the top of the stalk right the way back, and it will just carry on then bushing out from the bottom.
There'll be no plant left.
Oh, is that how bad it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
I can see it from here. I would start all over again.
Well, luckily, I've got lots, Gareth, so you can have some from me. And it is doing particularly well. But what I do with the chard is exactly the same as I've just said about the lettuce. So when you're making pakoras and so forth, I mean, you use it as a replacement for spinach.
Yeah.
So why not? Just have a go at it.
Top-notch advice, no Latin included. The Potty Plotters Podcast.
You've got something listed here, Elaine, that I've never grown, and I don't really know much about it. So, celeriac, what is it?
You see, you don't know anything about it, or little about it, because it smells and tastes very similar. It has got a hint of celery.
That's really...
You like celery?
No,
just the
she hates
word.
it.
Just the word just makes me cringe.
It is strange, isn't it? So, do you like it, Gareth?
I think I remember us having it when I was a lot younger, that we bought one, and you do mash with it, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those weird sort of vegetables that not that many people like because they don't really know too much about it.
Yeah.
And also it's got quite a bland flavour, hasn't it? Until you season it.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those sort of, I suppose, a bit like swede, where until you put the seasoning in, it doesn't bring out the flavour.
It brings out the flavour then. Yeah. I mean, if you don't like celery, don't grow celeriac, because it has got a little bit, it's only a little bit of well, she won't know because she hasn't got a sense of smell.
No, I've lost my sense of smell.
Yeah,
so,
I just told you
I'm just
something
thinking
then.
back to a couple of years ago when we did some on the plot, and you chopped them up and we did them like chips, and you said to me they're nothing like celery.
No,
and
celeriac
now you're saying
chips.
they're like...
Oh, it's a bit like having kids, Julia. Sometimes you have to take it on the chin. It's like him and chocolate beetroot cake, isn't it? Don't tell everybody, otherwise they'll never eat it.
It's one of those in vegetables, though, isn't it? It's because it's one of the ones that you see a lot on the cookery programs where they'll make celeriac puree with it, and you just go, what on earth are you doing that for? Because it's one of those where you go, you're just using it because it's the in vegetable for this particular year or whatever.
Oh, I didn't know you could have an in vegetable.
It's one of those ones where if you watch MasterChef, all of them use it for whatever reason, because they can do that swirly thing where they put it on the plate and they just pull the spoon.
Puree,
that's what I mean. They use the puree to do that with it, or you get
it's a nice action there.
It
actually,
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's quite bland.
All right.
And takes a lot of... You can roast it, though, can't you?
We're not selling this. I was going to say, how do you grow it, Elaine?
Well,
How do
I'll
you
tell you
grow
all
it?
about it. So it grows from a little seed, and it's not difficult to grow. I grow them in a tray.
Yeah.
So I put quite a few seeds, scatter them all over the top of the multipurpose compost, and then just leave them cover them, leave them. And honestly, they don't take long at all to germinate, and they grow, and they look actually like the top of a carrot. That's what I would say. So as the fronds start to come, or like the top of a parsnip, that's how they grow. Right then, when they get to about, what's that in centimetres, Julia?
That's about 7 centimetres.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
3 inches.
I'd go for the inches.
Yeah.
So we'll have 3 inches. When they get to that size, that's when they're big enough to prick out and put straight into the allotment.
Okay.
Now then, where people go wrong is that you expect quick results. It's a winter veg, so you're not going to be taking it until realistically the winter. So round about end of September, October, something like that. Or actually next week. And
Rob
what you need
Rose,
to
this
do...
is all your fault.
Yes,
it's
it
Rob
is.
Rose.
Calling him.
Oh, he's on holiday, so we'll go and trash his house instead.
Let's get him. And you plant them like beetroot around 4 inches apart. So you don't need a huge amount of space, dependent on how long you're going to leave them in. So what you do is, though, and the trick to this is, plant them where they're going to be in the shade.
Right.
Because they don't actually like a lot of sun.
Oh, it'd be a good year for them, won't it?
Yeah. So
Suddenly I
when
get the
we're
feeling
back
we're going to be
out-
having a lot of Celeriac.
Yes. Now, the good thing is you can leave them, just weed in between them, but you can use it as celeriac mash. You can do celeriac chips. You can roast it, and it looks like a swede or cross with a beetroot. All you've got to do is peel it. Did you notice that's what I'm doing with my hand? So I'm peeling it, and then chop it up, boil it or steam it. And honestly, it's blooming scrumptious.
Okay. Can I rewind back to the beginning? So when do you sow the seeds for the celeriac?
Anytime now. Just
Okay.
get cracking, yeah.
Right, so
and then
sow
they
the
don't take long.
Sow the seeds now. And what's
Yes.
the ideal size to take them, Elaine?
Well, I take them, what's that in roundness? Oh, that's like
that looks quite
tennis
small.
ball. Yeah, you
tennis
don't
ball
want
size.
to take them too
Because
big.
I've seen them in the supermarkets and they're quite big.
Yeah.
You kind of see them next to the Swedes,
Yeah.
and they're quite.
Right, the difficulty is, Gareth, if you leave them
Do they
to
get
grow
quite
any
tough?
bigger, they get corky and woody, and that's not very nice.
Because I think that's what I've seen people use them as on the telly. Is they've got quite. You see them quite big when they're sort of preparing them, and you go, well, they're using them for the woody flavour, so they're using it as a replacement for.
No.
What are the veg got kind of? It's a bit like they probably
Parsnip?
cauliflower kind of woody flavour to it, I
Yeah.
suppose. So they're kind of using it as a replacement for that to do the purees and stuff with. I think they're just being modern.
Modern? Oh, could we be modern?
You could be on trend again, Elaine.
Well, I suppose when I'm Minister for Allotments, everybody will want to know this kind of stuff, won't they? But
How's
it is
the
worth
campaigning
having a
going?
Well, I've not been
She's had
very
a lot
good
of
at it,
interest when
really.
we've been
I
out doing
have,
talks. There's a
yeah.
lot of people, want to join the Common Sense Party.
Yes, I think it's something to do with the Red Robin tomatoes that I keep thrashing people with. Well,
Bribing
not
people.
with them, but I keep telling them that they've got to grow them. But I do. I mean, I know I divert on that now, but I do think that things are so easy to grow. If we were to just help people just by talking common sense, because obviously it's in the Common Sense Party, I just think that it would work. We could do a little experiment on a village of some sort.
Take over a whole village.
Yeah, and make people do it.
That's called invasion.
Oh, is it?
They're not big on invasion these days.
Well, they could be if it was food orientated, I'll tell
Well,
you.
if you're listening to this and you've got a village that you'd like,
Particularly in South Wales.
A spare village going anywhere.
a spare village, and you think Elaine might do quite well running it for you.
Good help you. Well, saying that, Julia, let's just go back it was a few years ago. Do you remember when we were invited, I'm not sure if that's the right word, to do...
It's another word beginning with IN, isn't it?
Invited to do a vegan meal for God knows how many.
Yeah,
It was about 50 odd people.
Yeah.
But it didn't cost us anything, did it?
No, because we did it all from the allotment. Although
So-
the bit that did cost us was the vegan cheese, which was awful.
Oh, it was vile. I see I'd do away with that now. You don't need it.
No.
Don't do cheese.
No.
But when you work it out and it costs next to nothing to feed 50 people, I tell you what, I think that we could take over a village. We could do a whole Sunday lunch on nothing.
See, the celeriac would be probably the meat replacement, wouldn't it? Because that's
We
what
could
people
do anything. Aubergine, stuff
No.
them.
So when people roast it, you kind of see it as sliced
Yeah.
in some cases.
There's
as well.
loads
We do
of
that
things.
with the cauliflowers now, don't
Yeah.
we? Slices of cauliflower. Talking of cauliflowers, the weather has definitely upset my cauliflowers because they're not forming heads properly at the moment. So, I mean, we must be about 4 weeks behind when I'd been expecting to harvest them. So I'm a bit disappointed, Elaine.
Don't worry. All things come to those who wait. I think I've just made that up. Is that a saying or not? I'm not
It's
sure.
the same from somewhere.
Okay,
I've
then.
no
Well,
idea.
I quite like that. We'll have it then.
If you'd like to support the podcast, you can leave us a tip at ko-fi.com/thepottyplotters. That's ko-fi.com/thepottyplotters. And we'll love you forever.
I want to talk to you about wildlife on the plot.
Oh, yes.
There's
You've
been
seen me, have you?
Well, we've had a robin nest in a galvanised watering can.
Yeah.
That was quite an experience to watch them coming and going. Then we've had great tits in one box.
Yeah.
And they've gone.
Yeah.
And then last week, the blue tits have all gone.
Wow.
And so all I'm going to say is that sometimes when we talk about creating a wildlife area, allotments are naturally a wildlife area.
Yes, they are.
Have you had any wildlife, Julia? Have you had a frog?
Newt. I've seen a newt. Oh, I've seen the toads. The toads are in my polytunnel, which is quite unusual. But it's funny because they dig backwards, don't they?
Yes, yeah, to
Yeah.
get themselves into the holes.
Yeah, but I'm quite pleased to see them. So I can't think I've seen anything else on my plot.
Loads of
recently.
birds, haven't
Oh
we?
yeah, we've had loads of birds, but the magpies,
Yeah.
they're a different kind of bird.
We don't really like them, do we? But there you go. So we don't have to do a lot to encourage wildlife. All you have to do is leave a few bits and pieces around for them, like my hair. Do you remember? Put my hair in nets and they come and
Your
collect
cuts.
it.
Yes, when it's
I
cut.
have,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
But that's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah.
They come and take your hair and then they feather their nests, which is quite nice, isn't it?
See, and this is going to be a bit weird because sometimes on a Saturday after we've recorded, because we record on a Saturday at the moment for logistical reasons, or commonly known as my job, and sometimes after we've recorded, I go and get my hair cut. Now, I'm imagining going in and having my hair cut and saying to Dean,
Hairdresser.
you've seen the results. I wouldn't go that far, but saying, do you mind bagging that up?
That's right.
Yeah, no, I'm imagining saying that to him, and I'm imagining his reply, and I'm not sure we can broadcast it.
But you see, Elaine's hairdresser has known her, and she knows that she's a little bit strange, and she happily gives her her hair back, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. And I ask her for it, and I've done for ages.
Do you ask for other people's as well?
No, just
Okay.
mine. Yeah, never know what everybody else has got on their hair, do you?
No, and that's an important point, that if you are going to put your hair out for the birds, you need to make sure there's no products on it.
Exactly.
The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters.
Right, everlasting sweet peas. There's just one thing I wanted to remind people is that sweet peas...
Are made of these.
I know, I can't help it. I just always want to sing that. And I know Gareth will say, no, don't. But anyway...
Oh, it's the Eurythmics today.
Yeah, I can't help it. But everlasting sweet peas are not the same as our annual sweet peas. And what's the difference, Julia?
No smell.
No smell whatsoever. There's no scent attached to those flowers. Now then, all I will say is that they grow very steadily. So we use our Tupperware or takeaway boxes, don't we, to germinate our seeds. But what I was going to say was I've recently done a whole load for my cousin Carol because she wanted some. And you know, they took nearly 3 weeks to chit, that's C-H-I-T, but nearly 3 weeks. But the plants themselves now are around 3 or 4 inches high.
Okay.
Now then, they won't flower this year.
Oh, okay.
No, but what they will be is good food for slugs. So if you are doing these for yourselves, make sure that you keep them, and that's what I'm doing at the moment, keeping them and transplanting them, I should say, into bigger pots like you've done with squashes, etc.
Yeah.
And then they can go out when and if we ever get any sun.
And will they put flowers on next year?
They will next year, and they'll die back naturally.
Okay.
So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to cut them back, nothing. Just leave them. They just die back. And then what happens is they start again in the spring. Leave a little sign as to what you've put and where you put them.
Right, okay. And do they get bigger every year then when they come up?
Mine are massive now. They grow. Well, I put mine round an arch that I've created for it, and the arch is about 7 foot tall, and they get to the top of that.
And the difference with perennial sweet peas, everlasting sweet peas, they don't seem to have the range of colours.
Not at all.
Right?
No, they're purple, they're pink, and you can get a white variety as well, but that's it.
Okay.
But what I do is I add lavender and the annual sweet peas with them. And it is funny because even when you give people just a bunch of the everlasting peas, sweet peas, all they do is smell them straight away.
Yeah.
And there's no smell. There's nothing. It's quite funny, really. But they are a lovely filler for the garden. So why not try some?
What was lovely yesterday, just thinking back to yesterday, we were helping at an event and we were cutting and giving away sweet peas.
We were.
And it was really interesting that when people took them, they always provoked a memory of some sort or other. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, and we got them to write their memories down, didn't we? But it was interesting, the smell of that polytunnel, it was just oozing, wasn't it, of that sweet pea smell that you can't replicate anywhere. I don't think you can. But we gave away hundreds and hundreds of stems, and by us keeping, because they were our seeds, weren't they?
Yeah.
And by keeping the seeds and using them, I think it's about our sixth year into it.
Yeah.
And the stems on them, I mean, we should have taken some photos because Gareth, honestly, they were that big. What's that? 18 inches, something like that.
About 18 inches. I'm just trying to
but they
work it
were
out.
about 18 inches. The stems were so long. They were fantastic.
Yeah.
So, it was a good day had by all, wasn't it?
And the beauty of cutting them, of course, we literally strip the whole plant, all of the plants of the flowers. But by middle of this week, they'll all be up again. They'll have more of them because you could see them developing. So the more you cut, the more you get, and more to give away.
It was lovely.
Contact the Potty Plotters anytime on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Potty Plotters, or email naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
Well, thanks to everybody for listening, and next time we are going to be talking about something that Julia let out at the beginning of all of this, which was all about stulch.
Yeah.
Now then, we're not going to talk anything about it, Julia, but, I mean, stulch is really interesting. I like the word because it's a cross between mulch and straw.
Yeah.
Much more than that, I can't really think what it is. Stulch. I love the smell of it, though.
I know. But a lot of people will have seen it advertised in gardening magazines and other places.
You see, like yesterday, we were talking to people about nematodes, weren't we?
Yeah.
And folk don't buy them because they don't know what they are.
No.
Well, this is going to be the platform to launch stulch.
Well, I think it's already been launched and it's quite well launched, but I think this will be kind of a user's perspective.
A user's perspective? That sounds very educational, Julia. It's not like us,
No,
is
we
it?
don't want to do that.
Well, let's talk stulch
Our
next
experience of, let's talk about it.
stulching. That sounds like an offence, doesn't it?
That's stalking, and that's something that you've been banned from doing, isn't it? Alan Titchmarsh, Adam Frost.
And everybody else.
Any other gardener beginning with A?
That's it then. Goodbye.
Bye then.
The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters is an Amberland Media production.